All right. Yes. We are back for another live open court discussion, live in the counselor's corner. I am your host, David Lorenzo Glover, aka the controversial counselor. Joining me is my co host, the big bad wolf, Herb Lewis. Oh man, either that's the wolf is hungry or that's that June growl, that June, getting into that full Gemini season. Tonight, Monday, June 1st at 9 p.m., we will be discussing the topic Google is not your grandmother. So, good evening, all. If you're a woman in 2026, you've been sold a lie. You've been sold a lie. The lie says you don't need anyone. Be independent, be self made. Asking for help is a weakness. So, you did it alone. College alone, career alone, breakups alone, motherhood alone, perimenopause alone. And now you're successful and exhausted, respected and invisible. Here's what nobody told you. For 99% of human history, no woman did womanhood alone. The village was your mirror. Older women taught you what hot flashes felt like. Aunties showed you how to leave a bad man. Neighbors watched your kids while you cried in the shower. Sisters reminded you who you were before you became wife, mom, or boss. We fired the village for apartments in new cities, for careers, for I got this for fear of being a burden. We replaced elders with influencers, wisdom with WebMD, real help with sending love emojis. Results: 1 in 3 women say they have no close confidants. Female loneliness is at a 30-year high. Anxiety meds are the new multivitamins. So tonight, the staff we lost, the mirrors we broke, and the new village women are building on purpose because womanhood was never meant to be a solo performance. If you're a woman who feels like you're caring at all, car- carrying it all, it's not because you're strong, it's because you're unsupported. This is the controversial counselor. Let's talk about it along with the big bad wolf. So here we have it. Google is not your grandmother. Let me see any housekeeping. Same old here on this end. Counting down the days. Next Monday is my birthday, so the big 5-6. Damn, I'm getting old, but getting better. And that's about it. Just trying to get through the school year and buckle up because kids gonna be kids especially when they hit late May or June. So we'll go through that, and I'm sure some of it'll always be a parallel to something in school with these conversations, and it's coming because the subject matter about a village raising a child and mother, I guess mothers now kind of shutting down the village because they independent can do everything on their own. But that's all I have. But I'm sure there'll be more as the conversation goes on and I get triggered. Big bad wolf.
Man, I just got a few days off in a row, so I finally started to get a hand on my lawn. And when I say get a handle on it, I mean cutting the grass. The grass in some places is almost as tall as my chest, so I've been making good work of that. I probably got another hour to cut and start getting my landscape to look like it was when I first bought the house, which is a far cry from what it is now. But other than that, man, uh starting to try to turn the wheels on this weight loss situation. It's because I'm not sleeping well, it's a little tougher going for me now than it has been in years past. So we'll see how long it takes me to get there. It's gonna take me a bit, but I'm gonna get there. Maybe by the end of this year, I'll be down to 210, which is the goal. That's about 110, maybe 115 pounds. And you guys are my witness, and I'm holding my feet to the fire. But other than that, man, I got no complaints, man. I'm trying to set up some trips for. I definitely there's always one on the books right now, and that's with the brothers. We're going out to Kansas City to visit our older brother. So it's gonna be about 15 to 20 of us out there between the hotels and the Airbnbs. So we're gonna be trying to do it up this year. It's the only way we can do it, man. Travel, have fun, and enjoy each other while you can, because those days ain't promised.
Well, I know that to be true. Know that to be true. So let's dig into this. Let me see what I got here. Um, well, like I initially said in the promo, start off the value of a village to motherhood. Why doing it alone is a lie that's breaking moms. And, you know, you can go back to think about, and, of course, we haven't lived in nobody else's times but our times. And that's where we have to go on when we make personal references or stuff that we were told. But I can tell you the village was tight back in the days growing up. And I don't know if I would have made it this far without my village of my family. So I just wish that we can go back to those days because I think uh, we were more well rounded. We had more confidence. Not to saying that these young people don't have confidence, but some of it is to me false bravado when they really
Right.
haven't been um, taught or shaped that way. And we had so many people supporting us that shit, if you looked like you was down and out and you ran into the right person, they was gonna get you right. And we just had a lot of resources. And as we talk about the subject matter, Google to motherhood, then you have a lot of people that thinks they can go to the internet or Google, and that's their point of reference when it didn't matter what was going on. We always would ask my grandmother, this is happening, and she would come up with some weird remedies, do this or do rub 2 quarters, rub this or any little thing. I can't even think of the stuff she would come up. But you know what? It always seemed like it worked. Or maybe that was just the confidence that we had in her that her word was like bond. So whatever she said, she would heal all. And that's part of the village where a lot of times now you have strained relationships. You have these young women who don't speak to their mothers or they fall out. And also you have a lot of, mothers that had kids when they were younger, so they're closer into age and they're shit still they they trying to get out to the club just as much as their damn daughters are, uh, which that never was an issue for us growing up. If my mother and my aunts decide to step out, then we would be with our grandparents, and they would keep us. And even when I got older, and had a child at the time, my grandfather would always say, he was like, as long as we here, as long as we living, you got a babysitter. He was like, you got to go to work. Don't worry, just drop her off over here, and we good. Then he would also say, now also, if you want to go play a little bit, we here, so you go on and play. And you would take advantage of that. And what he meant by play just mean hanging out with the fellas. And if you got somewhere you want to go out, step out and go play, then they would be there. They're like, we ain't going nowhere. So just to have that felt good because nowadays, shit, People, young people, they can barely get babysitters. They can't keep jobs because no one's there to keep the kids, or the father was supposed to get them, but he didn't show up. And not saying that didn't happen in our day, but the village was so much deeper that you always had backup plans. So we're going to dive much deeper in that, but that's just something to kind of marinate your mindsets.
And I'm going to continue with that. For me personally speaking, my village had an additional village. And for long time listeners, you already know I was a foster child. That was another village for me. That, as a matter of fact, you know what? Tomorrow, if my memory serves me correctly, is the funeral of one of the brothers that I stayed with, his wife, and they've been married for almost 50 years. She recently transitioned. So there's that I might have to attend to tomorrow. But for me, you know, I have at least four, maybe five other, villages that I can always draw support from if necessary. I haven't needed to, but that's always been there. I mean, you know, coming up in our area, Gen X, in our area, in our era, Gen X, we've had a lot of villages that we were able to choose from. I mean, a lot of villages that we were able to go hang out with, do things that we never wanted for anything in terms of having someplace to go, having something to do, having someone to talk for. And I would tell people to look at a village like this. You ever see a bike tire and it has all those spokes coming out and you got the hub? The hub is that village. All those spokes are everything that supports that hub, everything that gives that tire strength that allows it to carry more. And that today doesn't seem like it existed when we were coming up. Yeah, there's still a hub, but like David said, with the maturation and the growth of single parent homes, whether it be male or female. And a side note, this is not to blame anyone. We're just talking about the village, such as it exists today, excuse me, as opposed to years gone by. So, you know, the number of villages that we used to have, community center, school. And when I say school, yes, I'm talking about high school because we hang out with our boys. And some of them were going through the same things we do. We ask them, you know, how do you navigate this? How do you deal with shorties? How do you do this? How do you do that? Church. Um, Extended friends and family. When I say extended friends and family, I'm talking about your cousins, your uncles. Sunday dinner. Sunday dinner used to be a major gathering. That doesn't happen anymore. And that's a huge spoke that's gone. Why? Because you got to hang out with your cousins. You got to deal with your older cousins. You might have, if you were like I am, you had nieces and nephews your age, because my age demographic in terms of siblings spans from 70 all the way down to, what my sister would have been was 50, 52. So there's a huge gap. So, some of us, and I believe David does, and I think this is one of the reasons why he does the North Avenue reunion, because that's another spoke. We have all these spokes, and sometimes we don't realize how fortunate we are. But we want to keep our problems either clustered or we want to air them all out over social media, which isn't good. The village don't need its dirt exposed. No, that's not how the village grows. That's not how the village stays cohesive, because that creates the infighting. Everybody's always looking to blame somebody. Well, it's your fault. It's your fault. It's their fault. Who cares whose fault it is? Let's remedy the situation. And then we can talk about it later, whose fault it is. But if you can't fix a problem, it don't matter whose fault it is. You're never going to gain anything.
Yeah. And to go on that one of the notes I had. The village was labor relief, and
Mhm.
I mentioned that in the promo video. Uh, that you know, grandmas will watch the sometimes watch the kids while the mother slept. I could say from stories that my mother told me that
Dave, check your cord, Dave. I still can't hear you. Did you? You muted yourself. There you go. You should be good now. I still can't hear you. Turn your volume up. Nope, you muted yourself again. Okay, he's having a little technical difficulties. Oh, yeah. You still got the mute on your mic. I talk now. Nope, still can't hear you. Okay, I believe what he's going to talk about was that his grandmother used to say certain things, and for those of you who were fortunate enough to have grandparents, mine died while I was very young, so I didn't have the benefit of the input and the wisdom, you know, of grandparents. But I believe what he's going to attribute to his grandparents and what they would say and how they would always put certain things into him because he always talks about, you know, his mother when he works at NU, and this is I'm thinking this is probably what he's going to talk about. So let's see.
can you hear me?
There you go.
We always have technology issues here and there. They pop up, but let me just make sure this volume. Okay. All right. Am I loud enough?
Yes, you're good. You're talking about your grand. You were going to say something about what your grandmother.
Yeah. So with that, my mother had me when she was young. So she would go to school, and my grandmother would keep me, and she would even give her opportunities to, if she came home from school was tired, she would make me take a nap with my mother, but she had would keep everything under control. Was always fed, and even as we got older, we lived next door to my grandmother on North Avenue. So a lot of times that was relief off of my mother because if my grandmother grew up making big dinners that she would cook and make sure it was enough for all of us. And I remember it was times that my mother would say, because she wanted to be independent or didn't want us to go over there to eat, like, okay, yeah, hey, if we was running low, it might be go to the store, get some bread, make some grilled cheese sandwiches or something like that. And my grandmother would ask, "What y'all eat?" And we'll be sitting there looking like, "Oh, we're really not supposed to say anything." My mother she didn't want us to eat. Then she was like, "If y'all don't, if y'all don't get y'all tails here, I don't care what y'all mother said. If she told y'all that, because I'm her mother, if y'all come on here and eat whatever." And hey, we couldn't say no, and then we would end up saying, "Well, I'll call my grandmother Bay. Well, Bay told we ate over there because she told us what we was eating, and she said for us to come and eat." And sometimes she wouldn't even ask. She would just call us in, like, "Come eat," and we'd be like, "But
Yep.
wait a minute, we not supposed to eat over there today." But that was part of the village. She probably figured she ain't have time to make this or make that, and I cooked, and older people get up, they cook early, they make dinner early, start making this shit when they make breakfast, and then start working on dinner and all of that stuff. So, and they knew somehow how to manage time perfectly, and so that was that. So she always made sure that we had well balanced meal and was full. That was her whole thing, to make sure you were full. And if you didn't, shit, she always had bread or cornbread to go with something, and would make sure that you get full off of something. And those was just little things like that. How even as kids, I remember everybody want to drink up they drink first. Oh, she's at that table, put that drink down. Don't sit up there and get full off that drink, whatever. Push that cup to the side, and you some things you just had to learn. And you would eat your food, then have your drink, but you wasn't about to sit there and just keep guzzling something down without eating. And man, those times was just life lessons that you learned and that you carried on with you when as you become parents and stuff. So they were, like I said, relief for your parents. They made things easier that you didn't have to worry about. And let me just throw another situation as far as even playing sports. Well, it wasn't my father who signed me up for football. I wanted to play football. My aunt actually signed me up, and she would be the one, because he kind of faded away. She would be the one when it was time to go buy spikes and pads and stuff like that, and she would be the one to remind me. Well, she used to call me Maine. Maine, it's time. Ain't it time for you to sign up for football? We got to sign you up for football. So stuff like that is invaluable, because I might have not had that opportunity if it wasn't for the village to say, "Hey, you love playing football. Everybody else is playing football." Because that was one of the things, they would have their football equipment on coming from practice, and she was like, "Why you ain't playing?" And then she's like, "Well, we need to talk to them to see what we need to do to get you out there to play." And it just took off from that. So they just made things easier and made things possible that couldn't be made possible if somebody was saying, "I need to do this all by myself." It wouldn't have happened.
I go back to those days in Griffin Manor, and I think the only one, and mainly because of his age, was that did play football was our youngest brother. Now, I was on the opposite end. My aunt didn't want me to play because she thought I would get hurt, too small. And my brother lobbied, shout out to Rick. He lobbied, and was able to get me to play. And I tell you, man, it was it was it was fun to always come back from practice and to be asked by the other cats that didn't play, "Yo, you playing? Yeah, man, you ain't no good, man. Let's strap this helmet on these pads and we can see who ain't no good." Because that was always the talk of the group. That's how you slotted yourself. If you were tough enough, if you could play, if you could hang out there with them. Because I remember in Griffin Manor, boy, we had a whole lot of room out there, and I used to play with people like Cozy, rest in peace, Devon, Squally, and look, if you know about Squally, you know about Squally, boy. Couldn't catch that cat, man. And so the days, the fun we had playing tackle in that field, and the field was huge. I mean, the field was probably in itself about 25 yards wide, about 60 long. And man, I remember the first time I wanted to play, my older brother said, "All right, look, they big. If you go out there and you get hit, you better not cry. I don't want to. I don't want to see no tear come out your eye. I don't want to see you up nothing." I was like, "Man, I want to play. I want to play, man." Got up there, decided to get knocked around. It's like, okay, this is what it's about. But you learn. It toughens you up, and it'll let you know that you could take a bump or a bruise and you wouldn't break. And that's where the building blocks of manhood start to come from. So you and Dave mentioned this, the false bravado. You look at a lot of these younger kids, whether they're male or female, and none of them have had a natural progression from being kids to being young adolescents to being full adolescents to that next step where they actually step into adulthood. No paper routes, no way to earn money, whether it was taking bottles to the store or babysitting, no, none of their first bike, none of that. So this is why we have a lot of what people will consider to be arrested development, and I don't necessarily disagree because they missed out on those steps. Those things don't apply. They don't. None of these boys have had paper routes, to where they had to get up on a Sunday morning at 4 o'clock and stuff them, put them in the bag, and ride around on the bike and live and deliver them to everybody, collect the money. Doesn't exist. So you didn't learn bookkeeping. You didn't learn budgeting. You didn't learn how to speak to people. You didn't learn who was in. You didn't know who was in your community. Heck, back then we knew everybody in our community, and the penny savers. All of that stuff is gone. So we can say, yeah, technology has ruined a whole lot, but technology has also given us a lot. Now, the only thing about that is nobody ever sits down and I said something about this before. We don't have digital classes. They don't teach nothing about technology in school in terms of how to use it to better yourself, how to use it to build your community. The only thing I see that comes along with that is Amber Alert. And excuse me, they had to jump down people's throats to get the Amber Alert to where it is now. I remember before 9/11, you had to use a 7-digit phone number to call the police department. All of this stuff has helped us in our society become better and to keep close knit so we could respond to things quickly. When we had an emergency, like David said, you were running your mother. You didn't Google it. You Google this, Google it didn't exist. Maybe if you're lucky, you pick up the phone and there was a number you could call to get some assistance. But everything we knew was contained within the family. Broken bone, well, you can't do nothing with a broken bone. All right. Black eye, deep cut, didn't require stitches. All that, somebody in the family knew. You could call somebody. Hey, such and such did this. What do you do? Mosquito bite, bee stings. What do you do when you encounter a wasp? Get the hell away from them.
Oh, I got to go back to that point when you mentioned squally. Let me get this out of the way.
Oh,
Definitely, like you said, well, in schools we use Excel, Lexo, Mobimax to help build literacy skills.
okay.
But I'm gonna go back to the Squally story. So Squally, like you said, lived in Griffith Manor, but then he moved on I think Ontario Avenue. I didn't know
Yeah.
him. Yeah, and one day I was headed to the store, probably to go get some bread, and it was like in the morning time, and it was him and Seaball. They was in his yard, in the yard, and they called me over there to play. They was like, "You want to play crazy tackle?" And I'm
Oh,
okay. Now, mind you, I was supposed to be on the way to the store to get some bread. So we ended up playing, and we had like a little intense game, whatever. It was just three of us. It was in the little yard. But after that, Squally, and I'm talking about probably pound for pound, probably one of the best athletes in Niagara Falls. The man
yeah,
could do it all. He
yeah,
can do it all. Boxing probably was his number one sport, but football, basketball, baseball, track running, pound for pound, one of the best athletes that I knew, especially growing up, because he made my game better and he made me believe in myself, even from playing that game of crazy tackle and just connecting with him after that. And man, every ball he threw was a spiral. Go long, he throw it, and he like, oh man, you got some good hands. You got some good hands. So he made me believe in my hands. Like I never viewed myself as like a wide receiver type, but well, I tell you, like the life lessons learned. And then down the road, we found out we were like related. So, uh, that even brought our connection even closer. But tell you, man, I learned a lot in sports and built up a lot of confidence in sports because of him. And that was just me walking to the store, minding my business, getting caught over it. And I probably got cussed out when I got back to the house. Probably was like, "Did you have to go bake the bread or whatever?" And didn't let him know I went had a detour and started playing football for a couple hours. But that's how good engagement was. Like we wasn't out doing nothing violent and committing crimes. It's just like, yo, you want to play football? Oh, okay. And I might have already had went to the store, might have been on my way back and just had the bag, put it to the side, and just took a detour and played football for a couple hours. But I think from that point forward, um, the engagement in sports even was more enhanced because Squally wasn't big in stature. He was probably smaller than most of us our age, but he had strength, he had power, he had determination, and you couldn't tell us that he wasn't just as big as anybody else because the dude had determination out of this world. And I shout out to him now. I see his videos and him
Yeah.
pushing and plugging, trying to, fight everything, personal things that he went through to make it back and keep pushing, brother. Man, you might not know it, but you was one of our growing up, one of our role models, even though
Fearless.
you was only a couple years older, but you instilled a lot of heart in us. That's something that we can't take for granted. And her, like her talking about that kind of rites of passage to being tough, that manhood, being just going through it with your peers. I owe a lot of that to him for instilling that in me.
And we talked about rites of passages on here before, and I think we're gonna turn our focus. At least I'm gonna turn my focus a little bit to the women. I think one of the things that the women miss, and I don't care what ethnicity you are, is the tutelage that came from your mother and more importantly your grandmother. Your mother was going to teach you how to be a woman. She was going to teach you about dressing, feminine hygiene, hopefully cycle, and if you got into it, boys. But your grandmother, just like our grandfathers were going to ensure that we understood the value of work, that we understood the value of getting out there, making honest money, taking care of your family, doing all the things you needed to do to be considered a good deacon in church or to be considered a good husband material. Now, we know that marriages aren't on the radar of most people. That's cool. But at least we had the understanding and the tools to become that if we chose that route. Back to the ladies. Your grandmother was going to make sure that you knew how to prepare a Sunday meal. She was going to make sure that you knew to, like Davis did, to invite everybody, regardless, because your word was law. Your word was the Bible. Your word as a grandmother overran, overseen everything. Even grandpa couldn't stand up against grandma. That was just the way it was. But what it did was it set a pace and a principle and the continuity for the things that would come. So when grandmother transitioned, the elders or the elders would say, okay, look, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to handle this. Why? Because that's how grandma did it. That's how grandma mandated that it be done. So we're going to have the repast here. Who's going to cook what? We get the list. We're going to assemble this. We're going to do this. Who's going to be responsible for this? Who's going to be responsible for this? And we're going to sit down and we're going to have a good time. There's not going to be all this yelling. There's not going to be this infighting. We're going to sit here. We're going to get the family that come from wherever. We're going to make sure that they're okay, that they have a place to stay. And then when we get together and we're going to, hey, we're going to talk about the good times. Even though this is a sad occasion, we're going to talk about the times of this. We're going to talk about the times of that. That's what your grandmother was. That's what your grandmother did for the women. And like I said, when the grandfather got a hold of the boys, because there was none of this hanging out with each other. The boys hung out with the boys, the girls hung out with the girls. And it wasn't because we were misogynist or misandrous or sexist. We understood that we had roles to play. And the only way those roles were solidified is you had to hang out with people who have done it or they were in the middle of doing it. In other words, you may have had an uncle who was 35, between 35 and 40. He had two kids, your cousins, and he was going to work every day, whether he was married or not. Now, he may have hung out and he may have drunk beer. He may have had a couple women on the side, but you know what? He always had the nice car. He had a spot you could go to. And if need be, his sister can call and say, look, I'm having a problem with your nephew. Can you come straighten him out? Guess who came around the corner? Come here. Let me talk to you for a moment. And you knew what it was about. You didn't know, but you knew what it was about because Uncle only showed up when Uncle had to deal with some things. And when Uncle showed up, Uncle was like, look, I ain't gonna spank you. You too old to be spanked. You're 9 years old. So when your mother told you to do something, do it. She got to go out here and work these hours at this job. You know, she don't like this nonsense. And your father may not have been around, so that's why the uncle was called. All those things are few and far between now. So the sister, even though she might be in good with her brother, he might be 2 states away, so he can't get there right away. And the boy, knowing that, he'll pick up the phone and talk to him, yeah, 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 yeah. And you go back to doing the same thing. Now, just imagine if the uncle actually showed up and he said, what happened last time we had the conversation? Well, I don't like, no, 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 no. What happened last time we had the conversation? I said I was going to do this. I said I was going to be better at this and this, and you're not doing that. So guess what now? We're going to take you to your room. We're going to pack up all your clothes, and you're coming to stay the summer with me. Ma, I told you. You can't do that. No, it's done. We talked about it. It's done. You coming to stay the summer with me. Now the boy upset, and he don't have a choice. Why? Because the mother sees the direction that he's going. She sees the people that he's hanging out with. And she said, you my son. You my responsibility. You are the family's responsibility. So we gonna ship your little ass off to where your uncle's gonna put you to work. Every day you gonna get up 6:30. You gonna chop some wood. You might bale some hay. You might pick up some eggs out the coop. You gonna work. Ain't gonna be a whole lot of playing because ain't no kids out here. So you're gonna learn what it's like to do an honest day's work. You can get your lunch. You can go back in the field and you're gonna work some more. You're gonna work from what is it? Can't see, sun up to sundown.
Hmm.
You're gonna work. You don't want to listen. You don't want to make your bed. We gonna make sure you do it all. And the lone kids you come out there, guess what they doing? They doing the same thing that you doing. They working. Because in the rural area, you ain't got all them distractions. You ain't got all that nonsense hanging around you. You got people out there that believe in hard work. They believe in doing it every day. Saturday you get the day off. Sunday you might go to church. That was another thing you was gonna do. You was gonna get some religion. You made a lot. You may not have liked it, but you was gonna get it. Trust me, I know. I don't talk about anything I know about. And where you think I learned to chop wood at? Where you think I learned how to operate a chainsaw? Where you think I learned how to do roofing at? Now it wasn't because I was a bad boy. It was just because of the circumstances. So when I talk about the foster home, shout out to the Jeffersons. Hopefully y'all doing well. Shout out to the Nogs. That was the one in Niagara Falls. Like I said, man, I had a lot of hubs, a lot of spokes that kept me upright, kept me rolling in the right direction. Even now, some days I sit back and I think about those days. And from time to time, some women that I've dated, I've taken them out that way. I've taken them out to Arcot. and because I think Arcot's a cool place, it's not what it was then. A few things have changed now, but it's still there's still a little small uh, fishing community. You know, you got a handful of people out there. Like I think the population might be about 200, real small. The school, they had one school there. There was the elementary school. They went to high school in Newfane. Panthers. Shout out to them, man. Man, fond memories, man. I tell people, I sit back there and I think about, you know, what I got. Never what I didn't have. What I got, what I was taught, what I received, and every day, like I said, I stand on those shoulders. I don't have any kids. I have a lot of nieces and nephews whom I don't see. My fault, peoples. I'm trying to do a better job as being an uncle. But it's funny because I was working one day and my niece drove by. I didn't recognize him. I'm like, oh my god, because we both happened to be working at the same place. I said, yeah, I saw they hired you. But man, sometimes as older aunts and uncles, we gotta fill our role. We have to acknowledge, where we're short at. We have to acknowledge what we do well, and when the opportunity arises, say, look, if you can take a load off of your brother, your sister, go ahead and do that. It costs you nothing and you build memories. Sorry, I got carried away.
All good. Like the subject matter is it's going to take you back to memories, and yeah, it's a lot. Like when you think about villages, like I said, I can't even growing up on North Avenue. It was just you just were surrounded by individuals. Shout out to Sister Hill, Sabrina, Clean, David, their mother. We knew. We knew not to play around with her. We knew. Like she didn't play. Like if we and I told the story at her 80th birthday party. I went up there because it was her 80th birthday party. That's just how much the village and how much it meant to say, man, she's 80. I got to pull up. And I spoke there and I told her like no matter what, like it seemed like if we were 3, 4 blocks away, somehow it seemed like she'd just be riding by like, why the hell is she on this street? And if she pulled up, she would say, she wouldn't say it nice. And we knew what it meant. If y'all don't get your asses back on North Avenue, and y'all got about this much time, shit, we knew. It wasn't gonna be like this day and age, these kids, they be like, man, fuck you, or whatever the case is. We knew not to say that. We're like, all right, we might look at each other like, man, shoot, we better head, we better head back that way if we smart. Because if she come back through here and see us again, our ass is grass. She definitely a lot more, and she was certified to whoop us. Uh, I never got one of her whoopings, but my brothers did, and she was certified to whoop us. And you don't challenge that from people with good heart. Nowadays, don't say nothing to my kid. Don't do this. Don't do that. Teachers can't say nothing to them. Counselors can't say nothing to them. You can't say anything to them. So what happens is adults say they just turn their heads. So even if it's a situation that like, mm, they about to fight on the street. They look like they outnumbered. Well, I ain't. Last time I tried to interject and say anything, mother cussed me out. Dad did this. Keep on walking. Keep on walking. If they ask when they getting stumped out, it's not gonna be on my conscience because before when I tried, so you have people they turn their heads to that because the respect isn't there. Yeah, we grew up, you, and you was an individual and you were clean cut and you wasn't. Granted, we learned from everybody, alcoholics,
Hmm.
crackheads, because they wasn't always that way. And sometimes just to listen to their situations and how they got to that point was a lesson learned for you to say, now I don't want to go down that road. But if you knew that they worked or didn't work, and they could have been just like a uh, stay home mom and all that. If they was on the up and up, you respect it and you listen to them. And man, I just could say that I deal with these conversations every day. Like, why can't you just respect this person and respect that, and they could be teachers in the building, and if they don't view you a certain way, they just simply don't give a damn. But I'm gonna go on to another point. Default parent equals mom. No shift change. Pretty much meaning that if dad ain't around, it's all on moms. There's no shift change. That dad picks up the slack, or he does this. He made, you know, after after school activities or whatever. And so, and this was in 2024. The U.S. Surgeon General reported parental stress a public health crisis,
Yeah, I'm sure it
and
is.
mother carries 70%, 71% of the unpaid child care load. So some of the things that need to be paid, some of the women carried that load, but also because the village isn't there. Well, again, I've said this before. My mother had four kids, and once my father left, it was just her. And but we had my grandparents, my aunts, who at the time didn't have kids, or the one who did have one, they wasn't school age. Guess what they did? And they know I love them to death for everything they've done for us. They decided to, okay, to my mother, you don't got to worry about all this. We'll take one. We'll each take one, and you only have to deal with have one kid that you have to focus on. Well, I got lucky as the oldest. My brother was we old get old and we talk about it. It's like it was just unfair because we never switched up. We always had the same person. You had two people. I had my grandparents. Well, I was the oldest, so I should have had. I probably got a little more because I had two people, but I was the oldest. But they never missed a beat. So people always thought like we had more than what they had. Like, man, like y'all rich. How the hell y'all think we rich? We live on the same street as y'all. They're like, oh, y'all get new bikes, you get this. But we start off the school year with one pair of sneakers. You start off the school year with like three. Well, because I had two people buying it. And also, I knew once I got into school, I'm about to put in work. Y'all was clowning, playing around. I was putting in work. So when it was report card time, and you had them big old with little envelopes with the report cards, and back in the days C's was the highest, and it wasn't AB's or whatever, it was C's and S and U's. But if you had a bunch of C's, that's what I had. It was golden. So if I said, hey granddad, it's this nice bike I want, whatever, and they got this, it's chrome frame, this and that, and he was like, let me get some rest, whatever. And Saturday we'll go to the store and look at it. You pick it out, whatever, and we'll figure it out. I always tell kids when you do, excuse my language, when you do what the fuck you got to do, there's nothing a parent would say. You have two things: make sure probably your room, your living environment is clean, and put in work in school. If you handle those two things, what the hell the parent got to talk to you about? Why they got to be in your face? They don't have nothing. I just was telling one of my students who I think she got a world of potential. She a leader, but she keep clashing, bumping heads with her mother. I said, if you did what you had to do and you was an AB student, you wouldn't even get all this slack.
Nope.
You wouldn't get nothing. So when you ask for something, even though you might got a smart, sassy mouth, they may just say, "Oh, dismiss you because you're handling what you need to handle on a regular basis." Nah, y'all don't understand. Y'all don't get that shit. So then, when you get confrontation, go back and forth. That's the beginning of the division of the village, because as you get older and you say, well, my mother was always on my back, always on my case, and then you say, truthfully, I don't even fuck with her like that. But she was on your case for certain things. Don't get me wrong, not every situation is like that. Sometimes it's warranted that a parent shouldn't be a parent and they don't do what's right. But when it's parents that possibly are trying to do right, give you a better home, give you a better situation, and you have resentment because you didn't do your part as a child, and you pull away from them and remove potential help that you could have because of your experiences, then that's how shit get divided. And that's why, certain families you get pulled apart because of situations or circumstances that, hey, as a kid you do have some responsibilities and could be in control of, but you decided not to. Now you're mad at the world.
You reminded me of something when you were talking, and I just maybe yesterday or the day before, and I'm doing my normal scrolling on Facebook, and I came across the Usain Bolt story, a very very interesting story on him having scoliosis and overcoming that, but how it impacted his running style. Now, when he was probably say 17, 18, he had one coach, and that coach's style was work the athlete until he's tired. And when that athlete is tired, work him some more. Famous for it. And Bolt would used to complain about, look, I'm tired. I can't maintain this kind of work pace. Now, because somebody had whispered in his coach's ear earlier, you got to watch him because sometimes he likes to goof off. He doesn't like to practice hard. So this coach operating with that into mindset about Boulder, operating with that kind of information in his head about Bolt, he would push him and continue to push him until one day Bolt had a hamstring injury. Now they had moved on to another facility where another coach was there. I think the gentleman's last name was Mills, and Bolt was watching how he um, brought along his competitors. And in the back of Bolt's head, the seed had been planted. He said he listens to his athletes. He doesn't overwork his athletes. He doesn't make his athletes do unnecessary drills. And for people who have run track, especially the sprints, you understand that certain things aren't necessary when it comes to your practice. In other words, you don't need to be running 800-meter sprints in practice. Yes, you need the endurance, but you don't need that type of practice day in and day out. You may need to run a couple 800s once or twice a week. I know when I was running hurdles, the longest distance I ever ran to practice for me, maybe 400 meters. And we would only do those in ladders. We would start at 400, work your way down to some 200s, some 100s to sprint work, all the way back up. We might do laddering, but most of it was technique drill because I ran the hurdles. So this guy ended up leaving this one coach and going to Mills, and that's when things turned around. They started getting him um, better better medical understanding of his running form, what he needed to do, and he tailored his workout for Bolt. So all of a sudden, now that the injury concerns that he had with the hamstring, once he got completely healed, never became a problem again. So this is just so people understand that even into our young adulthoods, when we get into our profession, there are still villages out there. The only question is when it comes time to make the right decision, do we have the information necessary to select the correct village? Because I know we think we going at 19, 20, 21, 22 just because we decided what college we're going to, don't mean we made the right choice. It doesn't mean that we know it all. It means that, hey, we just move on to a different set of villages, a different village with different villagers in it. Now, I'll be the first to tell you, if you don't have a good head on your shoulders, in other words, when you were in high school, who were you hanging out with? Like David said about the young lady, what were your grades? What were you capable of versus what did you do? Because just because you're capable of doing something doesn't mean you achieved and max to the best of your capabilities. I know there were times in high school I didn't, and I could have been a top 50 student if I applied myself. I just didn't. It wasn't until I played sports and then I was like, okay, I want to participate, so I know I need to have at least this type of GPA. And there would be people who tell you that I would be in science class and I'd be doing well, but I didn't want to part with nobody. I was just a person that liked to work alone, and that was because I knew that if I would get into a group, there would be people who wouldn't do work and work as hard as me. I'm like, look, why the hell are they profiting from what I know? Nah, man, I'll be over here by myself. I'll get my grade and whatever it is, that's gonna be the grade. But I just when David was talking about the student and her lack of excelling because she wanted to goof off, it just reminded me of the boat stories. So you know, we have to get the youth to understand that this period in their life, even though it's short, the ramifications of not doing well, of not understanding, they have an inverse impact on how well you do. In other words, if you have the opportunity, or a student has the opportunity, if they do well, to get a scholarship, guess what that means? That means less money that's coming out of their parents' pocket. That means less money they potentially have to take out in student loans. And that's in this your time in college. Those doors open up. They look at your transcript and say, oh, you got this award, you got this award. Or the last person I know that got this award, they went on to this, they went on to do that. So they start looking out for you. They start pulling things and talk about hidden scholarships that only a handful of people know about. That's the beauty of having that kind of village, having that kind of support system. Because believe it or not, and I'm sure Dave will corroborate this, what you know is great. But who you know, even better. There's nothing that trumps who you know.
Yeah. I always said I done shared this multiple times on this platform. Even my journey of plight through now university. Like I've met some people that were the dean of arts and science that wrote a recommendation letter that invited me over to her house to come get the recommendation letter and gave me a tour of her beautiful home in Grand Island and told me that no matter what, as long as I'm living on this computer right here, there will always be a recommendation letter from you. You know why? Because I came to class on time. It was only I probably was only to be honest, the only black person in that program. I can't say in the program, but either for my cohort of people, and it was just one conversation we had. We were about to talk about poverty in America and talk about blacks and crimes, and she asked me, she was like, "Do you want me to tailor the discussion or change it around because I don't want you to be, feel insensitive or feel a certain kind of way?" And I looked at her like, "Woman, you must don't know where I'm from. I'm motherfucking from North Avenue." And I was like, "No, teach it how you've been teaching it." And she's like, "You sure?" "Yeah." That shit don't ain't gonna hurt me. You talk about stats and all that. That ain't got to be my life. And well, I didn't say all that to her, but I think after that, she just had a certain respect level for me. Then it was one other situation, and she ended up being like the vice president of academic affairs. We used to see each other, and she was always like a woman, Caucasian woman. Always had a like a pretty smile, smiling and just upbeat. But we would cross paths. We would look at each other, but I never. And maybe I would have a glimpse and I would smile when I see her because I was like, "Who is this woman?" But she's always upbeat, happy, happy-go-lucky. But she wasn't a professor, but I knew she had a administrative position. Then one time I'm waiting for my roommate to come down so we can go to dinner, and she was like, "Excuse me, what's your name?" And I was like, "David." And then she's like, "I always see you across campus." And she said, "You look so mean. You have this scowl look on your face, and then you'll smile, and you have what are those things called? Dimples." And I was like, "Why don't he smile? Why does he smile more often?" And I was like, "Oh, okay." I was still nonchalant, try to be cool, and but I was a part of the EOP program, and when it was time, and she was there as a guest. Then after everybody was congregating after it was over, she met my mother and my aunt again. The village. My mother came, my aunt came to support me, and she was like, "So, is there anything, David, that I can do for you um, to make make you comfortable? Anything you need?" And I said, "I need a job. I need a summer job." And she said, "You need a summer job?" I said, "Yeah." She was like, "Okay." I swear, when I got and this school wasn't over with yet. By the time I got back to school Monday, and I ran into shout out to Tony Miller, part of my village. I wouldn't have went down the educational route without him. I got so many stories to tell. He called me in his office and he was like, go to HR. I said, "For what?" But I will tell you like how he told me. And you're like, wow. He was like, "Motherfucker, don't question me. If I tell you to go do something, if I tell you to go to HR, it must be something good." Then I'm like, because I ain't sure HR. What the fuck is HR? I'm 21 years old. Like, and
Yeah.
then he was like, "Just go there. You got some paperwork to fill out." Well, she already had put in the bid for me to have a job for the summer. That's what I'm talking about. We talking about when you have a village and you do things right. Sometimes your village will always increase. I always find telling my students now, like right now, my eighth graders, they're trying to walk across the stage. Well, they're having a prestigious thing this year because usually it's at a high school. But shout out to him, uh, our administrator. He decided to have it at Morgan State University. So they get the luxury of walking across a college stage. And it's Morgan State, HBCU. And one of my students, she been getting into it, just going through it. So, like today, I told her, I said, "You probably shouldn't be in the hallways. You like on a probation thing to walk across that stage." Because Friday, she told me, she's like, "I'm going." He told me that I could walk if I don't get in trouble. I'm about to make all my appointments, my lashes. That's crazy that you're in eighth grade and you owe that. Like I told her, maybe you should get some barrettes. She's like, "I'm not getting no barrettes. You put some barrettes in your beard," because these kids always say they too grown now. But she's like, "I gotta make my lash appointment, gotta get my feet done." See, this is the generation we live in. You're talking about
Mhm.
13, 14-year olds talking about lashes, got to get my feet done, got to get my outfit and all that. But then today I was like, "You in the hallway. If he run the cameras and the bell done ring and you late, I think you probably need to be in class." And she's like, "You right, Mr. Glover. You right. I'm headed that way." Because certain things you work towards, you might need a constant, you might need that village. I'm a village for them. You need to get on track. You got something you working towards. This hallways ain't it. It ain't it. So she ended up going away because any other time she had something smart to say, but she knew this is her shining moment before you go to high school. I mean, I try to always tell parents, they're not graduating from kindergarten. They're not graduating from middle school. Everybody graduates from elementary. If you want to use them terms, everybody finishes middle school. So it's really not meant to be a big festivity like that because everybody does it, but not everybody completes high school. Not everybody completes it. So that's a major accomplishment. This is just like a little appetizer. And so, you probably wouldn't want to go all out your way, but I know some people do it, got parents and grandparents coming from out of town and all that stuff. And it's okay to celebrate them. But also, some of the kids do get it too. Like, well, no matter what, you're going to finish middle school. So I'm saying all this to be saying there's villages, no matter where you at, what you do, and whether you at work and you got a department, that's your village. Those your peoples. Know your personnel. My department, no, David ain't gonna do this. He ain't gonna do that. But we'll do that. But when it come to the drama and we need somebody, the force to be around, the physicality or whatever. Not that I put but just a presence. Like, yo, I'm not playing with y'all. They know that, oh, he got this. He got this covered, and you work off of each other's strengths. So villages kind of go hand in hand, whatever. Everybody has a role in a village, and some people have certain strengths, and some people have weaknesses. And I always say it's interdependence. A village is dealing with interdependence, and you work together to keep a cohesive unit. All right, I've been talking for a while. That's that.
Nah, because it's apropos. And I think a lot of people don't realize they think that once you get to a certain age, you don't have a village. That could not be more wrong than if I sat and told you that 2 plus 2 is 5. And I'm going to reach into the professional sports ranks. When a football career is over, basketball career, golf career, Olympic career, what do you think these athletes do? They go back and they talk to their old college coach. They go back and they talk to their old high school coach. They go talk to people who are in sports media. Troy Aikman, Tom Brady, Tony Romo. That becomes
Russell Wilson. He just about to sign with CBS or something to be a commentator on the pregame show and all that.
that's their new village. People don't seem to realize that, and this is why they always talk about athletes burning villages. And one that's notable, Kareem Johnson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. They said he was cantankerous as a player. Now, just Kareem had his way about him. There were certain things that he just didn't like about the United States of America, which brings me to another topic: black women. I want y'all to understand something. A lot of you, not all of you, a lot of you have to get that notion out of your head that the white man wants to see you fail, that the white man wants to see your children fail. Because you know what? He don't give a fuck about you. And if your children fail, guess who's going to be to blame? You are. Because like David was talking about, the young girl got to get her hair done, got to get her nails done. The white man's not putting that thought in their head. You are. You're putting that thought in their head as opposed to getting to where she needs to be on time, making sure her academics are up to par. You putting this bullshit in their head about appearances. And I'm not saying that appearances don't matter. Yes, they do, to an extent. Because your looks might open some doors that your intellect won't. But I guarantee you, if your looks open that door and the intellect ain't there, you won't be there for long. Okay, I want you to understand that because men don't have that opportunity. Men can't rely on their looks to get through doors that certain things that looks only unlocked for them. All right, so I want y'all to understand that. Yeah, it can be a village. I'm not saying don't use your attractiveness to try and use the skins to get in there. You gotta have something up here. You just can't be running around with what's on here because what's on here, it's gonna fade. It's gonna wrinkle. It's gonna get old as time by. But what's up here, oh, that's gonna magnify and multiply. And this is what's gonna keep you going. This is what's gonna open more doors once you get the initial door open. Matter of fact, Pam Oliver. Some of you are probably gonna say, "Who the hell is that?" And why should I be concerned? I want you to go look up the name, Pam Oliver. She started out as a beat reporter for WVBI, Channel 4 in Buffalo. And now she's on a national platform like ESPN. She worked for it. She earned it. But a lot of people probably don't know who she is, don't know where she came from. Started out, yes, around here where we at. And now she's there. But you gotta work for it. You gotta use the village. And part of using your village is developing here first and then using the resources out there second. Don't think that just because somebody doesn't match your hue, that they can't help you. Don't think that just because somebody doesn't match your hue, they're out here to subvert you. They're not. They're working just as hard as you or I to get what they want. And they're not out here to do you harm. I know a lot of us black folks have been indoctrinated to that. And it's understandable. We were raised by the greatest generation, the boomers. They were coming out of slavery. And that was their reality. So I don't fault them. But I do understand that because that was their reality doesn't mean that has to be our lived experiences. So we don't necessarily have to convince our grandmothers, our great grandfathers, and the like about what we have gotten from people who don't look like us. Because some people will say, ain't no such thing as a good white person. I'm not here to convince you otherwise. If that's your lived experience, that's your lived experience. But I'm here to tell you, I've been assisted by plenty. And it's not for me to convince you of that. Because as I always say, I never try to convince the convinced and talking to the obtuse. That's a waste of time and I ain't got it to waste. I gotta go chase some money. So you're gonna have some people that's gonna tell you you in the wrong village because you're the only one in there that looks like you. Well, guess what? The next time around, there might be a few more and a few more. Next thing you know, that whole village may look like you, and now the people that were different, they're not there anymore. Don't ever let somebody talk you out of an opportunity because of the way they feel about the village that you now have moved into. Because I guarantee you, if you get to a point where you're pulling in $500,000 net, the people you live around, oh, they gonna change. I own a house. Ain't too many black people on this block. There's one mixed family, three other black families that live on this block. And you know what? I ain't bothered the least. At least three of their own anyway. I ain't bothered in the least. Don't care. Because I'm cool with it. But that's one thing you have to be able to do is you have to be able to get cool with you where you're going. Because trust me, where you going, everybody's not supposed to go with you. Just like when the eagle flies high. Ain't too many other birds up there. Because that's the eagle zone. That's where the eagles fly. Don't let nobody talk you out of what's supposed to be coming for you because you worked for it. You earned it. Because there's going to be some people that don't want to be by themselves. Why? because they don't know how to establish another link to another village. They don't know how to be a productive member of the village that they're in. They just want to lay around, use up the village resources, and they don't want to contribute any. And we don't see that. We don't see plenty of that. And people will say, I don't know how you can hang around with him. I don't know how you can hang around with her. All they do is just sit around and do this. They complain and they don't do anything. They don't have that. It's like you got a beautiful tapestry here. Everybody came through. They dropped on the tapestry kind of nice. And you got this other person that just come through and just throwing stuff everywhere. They don't care. You got to avoid those people in that village. They're there. They're there for your benefit. They're there for their zone.
Yeah. Village is it's a beautiful thing, and it's a beautiful thing to be surrounded by like-minded people that feed positivity in your mind. But you made me think about something when you mentioned about some of the athletes that go into broadcasting and they get into jobs, they become assistant coaches. Why do you think Shaq is still on Inside NBA? He don't have to work. He don't have to do shit. He got multiple restaurants. He on endorsements and all that. He likes the village with EJ, Kenny, and Charles. That's what gets him going. No matter what, he's gonna be there. You know, they all take a little time off here and there. They may have some events, but they don't show up. But he looks forward to building that, just that fellowship,
Mm-hmm.
that village, and just to sit around with people, like-minded people, have fun, talk shit. Can't beat that. That's the best feeling in the world. And I tell you, as you get older, you like to relish those opportunities to be around individuals that talking about something. Sometimes I wonder how people hang with certain people because I be like, what the fuck they talk about? Like, what's the conversation like? Like me, I'm goal oriented and and I'm competitive, so I like I like those conversations of being around people, and if they're growing, I'm not hating on them, and they got growth. I'm trying to figure out, damn, how could I get to that point? Then I want to pick their brains to figure out, man, what do I need to do, or damn, how did you get that set up? And I want to be a part of it. And some of y'all, as we speak on the as far as like the womanhood in the village, some of y'all, I don't. I question a lot of things that I see on social media. And again, like I said, I'm not trying to make fun, but I'm just shit pointing out stuff that I see that y'all be choosing the wrong village. Y'all be choosing the wrong village. And if you're the leader of your village and you out clubbing and at functions and all the time, what do you expect? What do you expect? If that's your blueprint on social media, is the bar scene, clubbing and all that, who's gonna take you serious? Who's gonna take you serious? And that's why I always said, shit, we have our core things that we talk about. So when people say all you do is bash women, you a damn lie. You're a damn lie. We talk about every, like I said, friendships, family, relationships, work, health, child drama, the dating game, loyalty, uh, disloyal, mistrust, all types of conversations. So I always like, okay, well, shit, go back, stroll through, and you'll see different conversations that we have. So usually after a while, they disappear with their thoughts because I'm like, you full of shit. You ain't been doing your homework
Yeah.
because We talk about a little bit of everything. It can tie up all them damn points in one subject matter. But I'm gonna go on to another point. And we kind of touched on this, but the village was wisdom transfer, and meaning that the bigger your village, or sometimes your village ain't got to be big, but it might be core people in it that you get so much knowledge from. You get so much knowledge from. Now, she never said it to me, but my niece, my sister's daughter, she always speak on about her uncles. Like her uncles is this, her uncles is this. Now, she would never say that because she kind of cut from me, and that's why I think me and her get along, because we'll joke around all day long when we're together, talk shit about each other, but it's always love. And I'm not one that may be overly complimentary to certain people. Like, yeah, I feel you out, and then at that point, I might give it to you, but I just don't, because sometimes people give out fake compliments. Like if I if I prop you up and all that, that probably mean I studied you and you had an impact on me, and I'm gonna be like, yo, it's real. But I'm just not gonna follow the lead. Like a lot of times you see people just, especially on social media, they just follow the lead. Prayer hands, thumbs up. They
Mhm.
just want to be a part of the shit. Don't know what's going on, but just want to be a part of it. Well, I'm not gonna be the one that just automatically jump on that. If we got a personal connection and it's something ingrained in me, then I'll say, yeah, I may even inbox you or something like that, or like try to reach out, be like, damn, because to me that's real. I'm just not no follow the leader type person. So I guess I was saying, when I was thinking about, as far as my niece and all that, that some things ingrained. Like she looked at her uncles, like, okay, they're in education. I want to step my game up to be to that level, and sometimes it just take a couple strand of people that you say, hey, I want to follow their lead, or I don't want to disappoint them. We all should have somebody in your life that you don't want to disappoint. Well, in this generation, you have people coming up and like, "Oh, it don't matter. I don't give a damn. Well, I do everything for myself, and all that." And I think that's the wrong mindset to have, because I knew for me, certain people fought for me. I didn't want to disappoint them. People who went out their way to help me out, I didn't want to disappoint them. So when we talk about the village was a wisdom transfer, you get so much wisdom that's transferred on, and I love that wisdom. And I could never understand when kids were like, well, all they do is talk about themselves. I was like, when I was a student, I used to love when it was a personal connection with a teacher, that they said something or brought up some of their personal experiences, and it was transferred on to me. I never forgot those stories. And those stories are sometimes the connecting piece to building relationships. And again, whether it's uncles, grandparents, and all that, you got to be available to listen. Not listen and learn to listen. If you're not willing to listen, then you're probably not willing to learn. And you think your shit don't stink and you got all the answers. Well, me, I'm always trying to gain knowledge, and I love the ability for people to transfer wisdom on, because I could connect some of their dots to my dots and say, man, that's what I did wrong, or maybe that's what I need to do to get to this level.
And I think that's vital. We can't always think that we always have the answer, and that's why it's important to surround yourselves, with people who know more than you. The adage goes, if you're the smartest person in your group, you're probably hanging out in the wrong group. Now, that's not to say you can't spend time with those people. But if you want to get to another level, if you want to ascend to another level, then you have to go deal with people that know more than you. Now, people say, well, why would I want to do that? It's simple. Life is about learning. And I can't put it in the other way. So if I'm an authority in one topic, then why not go learn something completely brand new? Oh, you don't want to be challenged. You don't want to appear like you don't know anything. Well, you know what? That's why they call it learning. Because when you started out, you didn't know what you know now, but you learned. You hung around people that knew more than you. You hung around people that could teach you. You grow. And every facet that you can add to you means you become a better person. You become a more knowledgeable person. You become the elder of that village. And who knows? You may get to a point where you become a village that everybody is trying to plug into. You are the one where all the spokes come from. Well, people say, well, shoot, if it wasn't for such and such, I wouldn't be here. If it wasn't for such and such, and all of a sudden that starts to permeate. And people say, well, I heard you the man to talk to. You say, look, I'm just one of 100 people in this place. They say, nah, mm-mm. Everybody I talk to, they say, you got the mots. So what's your secret? And you tell them, you say, you know what? I just speak to people. No matter where I go, I speak to people. And I ask them, what are their interests are? Because I know about me. I know what my interests are. I don't need to know what my interests are. I want to know about the person that's sitting across from me. This is why a lot of people are terrible daters. If you want to be honest, because they don't know how to have a conversation. Yes, they know me, me, me. They know me, me, me. They know me, me, me. But they don't know how to pull information from another individual. And you know what? That makes for a very boring outing. Nobody wants to sit there and be interrogated about that. People say, well, how else do you get information? Well, there's no way to get information out of people that makes the outing fun. But you don't know how to do that. And you know why you don't know how to do that? Because when you had the opportunity to learn, you thought you knew. You didn't want to listen to your uncle who was going to game you up. You didn't want to listen to your aunt who was going to teach you how to be a little cagey, if you will, with your answers. You don't learn how to be, dare I say, controversial, because those are the type of things that people remember. You say, you know what this motherfucker said to me on a date? He asked me how many abortions I had. You know what? Who would ask? Who would ask a question like that? Well, the big bad wolf would. Why? Because it's a fire starter, and I don't mind putting out fires, but it's something to get the night going. And I guarantee you, you ask the right question to the right person, you can be sitting there dialoguing for hours. You're gonna find out how to react to things that they don't like, that are upset or offend them. And sometimes you're gonna do that. But how do you recover? How do you deal with somebody that's upset? How do you deal with somebody you've pissed off? All of that stuff that you should have learned in the village when you were younger. When you did something that your mother didn't want to, you brought home some bad grades. How'd you recover? How'd you get on to the next day? Oh, you pissed off your little girlfriend in high school. It was Valentine's Day and you didn't get her nothing? And now she got you on the I ain't talking to you phase? How do you get back on the other page? How do you get her to talk to you again? How do you get it opened up? These are all the things that people can teach you, provided you ask questions. And contrary to popular belief, most people will be willing to help you if you don't come with the attitude and the mindset that you don't need nobody. And that's a lot of what we get with this independent mindset. Well, I don't need you. I can do it by myself. Why? Why would you want to struggle by yourself? There's an acronym that I saw, and I've seen this a couple of different places, and I'll leave it here. You can take it, leave it, use it if you want to, do whatever you want to. And it's called team. Together, everybody lifts more. I'm sorry, together everybody achieves more, lift more. Be a part of the team. Keep lifting the people you work with. Hopefully, the people you work with or you associate with want to lift you up, and everybody keep rising. Shout out to Ron Wills. That's one of his slogans. He says, "Keep rising and transforming." Be who you are right now. Get to another level. Be that person. Get to another level. Get to another level. Keep ascending. Don't stop just because you achieved a measure of success. Keep going until all you can achieve is success. When you people who don't like you, they praying for you to slip up. They want you to they want you to fall. So they can say, good, that motherfucker think he know it all. Everything he touch, he master. You're supposed to. Why start on something just not to achieve? Just matter of fact, 2 days ago, well, not 2 days ago, I downloaded an app, and I've talked about often my desire to want to learn how to play the keyboard and the guitar. This one's on the keyboard. I got a 10-day trial. I'm going to keep you guys posted on how well I do, but it's just another facet of me wanting to be me. Just another facet of me wanting to do something. And who knows what village I may stumble into? Who knows what I might be doing with that? I don't know. But I've always wanted to learn how to play the keyboard, mainly because there's a couple songs that I want to learn how to play. I want to be able to do them at karaoke.
Well,
Y'all know my singing voice.
that that would be the unlived part of your life. And I watched a little quick clip of that, and I guess I never thought about it. Um, it was some guy who had talked about our unlived life, like things that you want to accomplish, whether you want to play the piano, whether you want to go hiking, and but the whole premises of the whole thing was about retirement. And I was like, well, I'll probably put in something about retirement. Now I'm getting all of these different things coming up about retirement. And he was saying that don't, and shout out to Kai Hill because he said that don't let money determine what you want to do as far as retirement. If you feel you want to get out, then you have to get out. And he was pretty much saying the same thing. Don't let money. It's those unlived things that you want to accomplish that you kind of on a time frame to do it. Like if you say, "Oh, I would love to just be able to go hiking." Well, if you sit up in a job till you 67, that's probably not gonna happen. And one of the things he said too, life expectancy, but healthy life
Yeah.
expectancy, where people don't focus on, damn, I need to get here, but I still want to be healthy. And he mentioned that like once you get to the point of 60s, I mean 65 and over, that's things start declining. And it started declining, could be at a rapid thing, a pace that those unlived things you may not get to. So that kind of jogged my memory, just hit my head like, damn, like, how did this pop up? Because that's the same mindset I'll be saying like, I keep saying, I will not spend be in no school building at the age of 60. I don't give a damn. Give a damn. I mean, there's people there that's older and all that, but I see how they get treated. I don't think I get treated like that, but I know my time is not there. Like, you just can't keep holding on forever. Like, I get like we always talk about
Simply
sports.
Red. That's a
What you
great
say?
song. Simply Red has that song. Keep holding on.
Yeah, I know the song you talk about, and we always use sports parallels and stuff. And I think about LeBron James, whatever you playing, still at a high level. But see, I'm all over the place. But I watched one of the things you got to watch is the Art of War, like on YouTube with Andre Ward, professional boxer. He interviews a lot of boxers, and he interviewed Roy Jones Jr. and they would talk about Father Time, and I'm a proponent Father Time. You can't beat that shit. And Andre said, listen, he said to Roy, he said, yo, man, I'm having a problem, man, because he just turned 40. He said, man, this Father Time thing, man, getting the grays in the beard, waking up with aches and pains. He said, how do you deal with Father Time? Roy Jones said, you don't. You leave it alone. You're defeated. There's nothing you can do. He said, you see what you get. He said, even with the grays, you don't think about that. I was like, no. And he was like, it's nothing you can do to beat that. So I often think about that. Often, like, ain't shit I could do. I wish I would spend time dyeing my beard and trying to enhance myself to look younger. It is what it is. That's that. If I cut my beard off, would I look younger? If I dyed it, would I look younger? But that's not what I'm trying to. I'm not trying to deceive people. I am who I am, and Father Time is undefeated. Nobody ever beat Father Time. The thing about Father Time, you could be rolling, and all of a sudden you start looking old real fast. Or people, because I seen people, I was like, damn, I seen them like 3, 4 months ago, and they were all right. Then you see them after, they were like, holy shit. Like things decline. It could be an illness, health, or whatever, and people go down real fast. And Roy was pretty much saying he don't mess with it. He don't try to do nothing with it. Nothing he can do with it. And I think it's true. So I'm kind of all over the place, but I'm still trying to put it all together. The unlived moments, the villages, and people that's given because even in that interview watching with Andre Ward and two great boxers, two of my top 10 favorite boxers, Roy Jones was a village to Andre. Uh, he was trying to get some knowledge from him, like how do you deal with this? And sometimes that's what the village is. Grandma, I'm going through this. The baby keep crying. I don't know what to do. I called the doctor, and the grandmother, I'm calling them doctor. They don't know your baby like you know your baby. Well, let me just tell you this. Your uncle used to be the same way. You know what I used to give him? Uh, and maybe he ain't eating right. Well, you can't give him that baby food. You got to start feeding them real table food. You got to mix this in, whatever. And I bet you when you give them that, they're going to sleep and they're going to be all right. You try it? Sure enough. Like, how it go? Oh, he slept so good or she slept so good. Yeah, you can't listen. Grandparents can't always listen to them. They don't. They don't know what the hell they talking about. And but that village, because they're gonna give you some knowledge of family members that probably had the same traits or the same symptoms. And grandma said, Man, I put some cereal in their milk and they was fine after that. And and they ain't crying all that. And there you go. Bam. That's the village on some of the stuff. So you know me, I'm always gonna try to connect it. So that's my connecting piece on that. But I'm gonna go on. I don't know what happened to the big bad wolf. Uh, Also, when we talked about the village and the was the wisdom transfer. Now, one of the things people is the TikTok moms, the 2 a.m. WebMD rabbit holes. Is it colic or autism? Is training abuse? 10,000 opinions, zero context. You go into that, and you run into that, and you see stuff on social media, and you think that's the answer to your stuff when simply it may just be reaching out to somebody in your village or in your family that's gonna give you greater insight. So who knows?
They look like I don't know what the heck is going on. I just okay. It was wild because both of us froze out at the same time.
Mm. So just be mindful like the different things like some of us is going to social media, TikTok. Don't get me wrong. I see some creative ideas that's posted on TikTok, but that's not the end all be all. If I got somebody that's living or I could get some feedback from, I'm going to try to reach out to them to kind of figure out whether they're to go out. Because, again, like I made the example about what grandma might say, that's probably that's wisdom and knowledge, and she may say, "Oh, that sound like your uncle. That sound like how it used to be," compared to just Googling it or going to social media without knowing your own history. So just be mindful of that, people.
Indeed. We don't sometimes we don't know where our help is. And what I mean by that is this: we're all going to be confronted with problems. This is why some people post their problems on social media because they think somebody out there is going to have a solution. And oftentimes, the solution might be within our own family, but because we're so reliant upon social media, we go there first. We don't pick up the phone to call. We don't go next door, and we don't ask our neighbor why. Simple. Many of us don't know our neighbor. We live in such a transient world that who your neighbor is today may not be your neighbor next week, 2 months from now, a year from now, 2 years from now. Our communities are much more solidified where you knew the person that moved in next door to you, they wasn't going anywhere for 6 or 7 years. Case in point, as an adult, I've only had two addresses. Now, I consider myself to be fortunate in that regard. One when I first moved out from my mother's house at 27, and this is my second address. We're talking uh almost 30 years, I believe. Yeah, 30 years. 30, I'm sorry, 28 years. And for a lot of people, they couldn't imagine because they're always having some problems. This, and that. They have to move from here to there for whatever reason, be it employment or just inflation or divorce or whatever it is. So I consider myself to be fortunate in that regard. So people will ask me, well, how would you do it? I'll tell them, well, first of all, I own. And that was something for me that was a lifelong goal, I suppose, more so than I realized. Because I sat down and did the math one day. when I was still renting. And I said, wait a minute. I done gave this man 13,000 of my hard-earned dollars, and I don't have anything to show for it. I said, oh, hell no. I didn't need anybody to tell me to go buy a home. Not at that particular point. The money was telling me, go buy a home. And that's what I did. I said, if I'm going to be dropping that kind of guap on somebody, putting that kind of money in somebody's pockets, it better be my goddamn home. And that's what I did. We, especially as black people, we have the ability to own so much more than what we do. We have the ability to do so much more than what we do. Matter of fact, and we'll probably get to this by and by photo. And this is posted in the counselor's corner, so you can go see this. And Spider had asked a question, and I haven't seen the sister's reply. He asked, "What are 7 things that black men could do to help our own cause?" And I said, 1, be more present in primary schools as leaders, whether it's teachers, board of education members. 2, start political action committees. We always talk about how we are uninvolved in politics or the redistricting of voting lines. That kind of money, we can stop a lot of that, or we can consolidate a vote so we can get what we want, no matter what they do with the party lines. 3, create investment opportunities for men. I hate to say it, and if it sounds sexist, so be it, because we always hear about black girl magic, so that tells me y'all don't need any help. You guys are self-sustaining. Well, it's time for the men to start looking out for each other. 4, open more small businesses to employ the youth and ex-felons. Sounds self-explanatory to me. 5, keep being active in the lives of your children and continue to keep out of wedlock birth rates low. We already know what they say about us. We making kids, we running away from them, we're not taking them. We're not taking care of them. Well, we, as black men, we can single-handedly put that shit to fucking bed. But we got to do it. 6, and this is, I can already hear the feedback on this now. That's not possible. We can't do that. We have the ability to ensure that there's a 90% graduation rate for high school. Lofty, yes. Achievable, maybe not, but I'd rather shoot for the moon and miss and be among the stars than not shoot at all. And last but not least, open and fund a black national bank. $1.4 trillion. That's how much our economic output is in this country. 1.4 trillion. If we donate, if we can amalgamate 10% of that, 10%, I believe that is $147 billion. 10 cents out of every dollar we could donate to open a black bank. We could do what the fuck we want to and nobody will stop us. We can open schools, hospitals, businesses, make small business loans. We could turn this goddamn apple cart over to where we don't only become a village, we become a country within a country. But that's got to be something we got to want to do.
Yeah. And you know, for our era and all that, even growing up with my brothers and listening to like the message from the Nation of Islam, reading the message to the black man and all that stuff, stuff has been forecasted a long time ago. And we just have too many vices that divide us, that, again, like I said, divide the village and pull you in certain ways that, again, like BGS say, are we done? Is it done? And that becomes more of the pressing issue. Like, are we done? Like, are the people that's leaders of village ready to say, man, y'all motherfuckers can kill each other, do whatever y'all want to. I'm getting out of the way, and I'm taking my family out of the way, my immediate family, and y'all have at it. Because a lot of people have taken on that attitude because it's just too much riffraff going on, and it's unfortunate. I'm still in the heat of the battle uh, in the schools, but I didn't mention on here a lot of times. I'm ready to Machiavelli on y'all ass. I've mentioned that a lot of times. Like, man, peace, quietness, relaxation. That's everything when you get older. Uh, I'm not into the loud scene. Don't want to be a part of that. I just want cordial, good conversation, good, wholesome people, and people that you can walk away from and say, man, Herb mentioned, man, well, you heard what Herb said? Even though you playing games and you doing, having a good time, adults were like, oh, that shit was deep. I need to follow up with that. Because again, we still learning. We still students. And when people feel like they can't be taught anymore or they can't learn anymore, I might as well get ready to sign up for your coffin,
Pretty much.
or because you mentally dead if you think, hell, hey, I'm grown as fuck. I'm 40 years old. So you stop living? You don't want to learn no more because you hit 40 or 50? Shit, I want to always learn. I want to learn. And I think the people who brains still can function to that point and still mobile and still can get around, those are the ones that still be living long. And they be like damn near 100 years old. I'm like, damn, they ain't miss a beat. They still with it. And some older people, they still with it. Like, damn. Shout out to shit, and I could say Sister Hill. Like the last time when we together, she was bringing up stuff that I had forgot about, and I'm like, and I told her, you still sharp. You sharp, and whatever contributes to that, and maybe I think it's being a leader of the village to say to yourself, I gotta stay sharp for them, and I think sometimes that may be the case. But then again, as you do research on it, for the ones who want to be independent, it's a lot of wear and tear, a lot of strain, a lot of struggles that you don't get to that point because you're struggling with fatigue, mental fatigue, trying to do everything on your own. So it's one of those things that to me, I always say I like to surround myself with like-minded people, low stress level, and but yet and still, I want people to watch how I do it and other people do it and say, man, that's the route I want to take. But just never know. You can lead what it say, lead a horse to the water, but don't
And
mean
make
they're
them
gonna
drink.
drink. Yeah, so that becomes the bigger issue. Well, we ain't, we don't have no women on here to argue back and forth with. Well, we'd be on here 3-4 hours. So we try to keep it under 2 hours. Any closing comments? Yeah, and y'all already know. I'm gonna tell y'all this before. The village ain't over on here in the counselor's corner. And we still gonna talk about this shit. So if you think, oh, I'm glad they ain't talking about that no more, hell, we still gonna talk about it. Still gonna come up. Any closing comments from you, Big Bad Wolf?
Nah, just I'm gonna wish a few people a happy birthday. Ren Fagan. Shout out to DJ extraordinaire Russ Bettis. Keep them platters spinning. And of course, that Steeler fan, his big old milk dud head, Steve Ellison. Happy 59th, man. Keep living. All y'all happy birthday, man.
All right, I'm gonna throw one in there. She passed away, but that's one thing I always knew when we were growing up. Went to high school. I said her birthday was in the fourth. Mine was the week after. Shout out to LaRuth Harris, uh, Ruthie, uh, and I could tell you, yeah, you were very instrumental to me in high school to kind of open up my shell, and a lot of things that I might have been stubborn on. Your ass wouldn't have it. Like I said, I wasn't going to class day, and you was like, "Oh, your ass going to class." She was like, "You going to class day? If I have to come get you, you going?" And so shout out to her. And man, it's crazy to think that she's been gone for I don't know the exact amount of years, but man, people like that who have an impact on me, they're always in the heart forever. And June 1st hit out like LaRuth, her birthday. And that was the one thing. But it's a lot of Geminis coming up. I got a couple Geminis in my school. One of my students, when I told her, she was like, "My birthday, June 8th." I said, "Oh shit." I said, "So we Gemini twins." So she like 7 more days, Mr. Glover, 7 more days. Like, the way you acting, I don't even know if I want to even tell anybody we got to share the same birthday, but it's a lot of them. So a lot of the Gemini, the real sign, the real season. Her may disagree with it, but it is what it is. The
I'm a
genius sign.
Sagittarius, man, so I just sit back in the cut, man, just watching traffic like a safety.
But that's where we at, and we nearing this summertime, getting to that point. But for the sake of this whole thing, find your village, find you a good village, find some people that you're gonna grow and learn and gonna get something with, and absorb in your brain something that keeps you going. Because as the older you get, you can hang around a bunch of nonsense, but that shit just gonna drag you down. But if you
Yeah.
hang with people that keep you going, keep you motivated, whatever, it's gonna give you more life, whatever. So find those people. If you still dealing with people because we just by default, we've been hanging together, we've been since kindergarten and shit, it ain't nothing but toxic shit. Y'all die together. Probably 2-3 months after each other. I ain't for that shit. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I hate to leave it on that note, but
No,
I am. Go
because
ahead.
the funny thing about it is it's like a snake that molts or sheds its skin. Why does it do that? Because it grows. So keep shedding, keep molting, and keep growing. There's, there's I like the people that I used to chill on the block with. I don't associate with them, most of them anymore, and it's not because they're bad people. It's just because I outgrew that person. I don't hang out on the block anymore. I don't, you know, even though I like the brand, I don't drink Mystic fruit drink anymore. That was my thing. You know, hanging on the block, my boys used to talk. They used to drink. I didn't, and they were cool with that. But I don't do that anymore. If I see them, I shout them out. Yeah, absolutely, because they're good people. But we have to remember that just because you stop hanging out with people doesn't mean they're bad people. You came to a fork in the road. What did your grandmother or your mother always find to say? You go one way, and I go the other.
Yeah.
That's all it is. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with going one way and somebody else go the other. Maybe that was the road you two were destined to take. I don't know.
Sometimes when you go that one way, the village that you need to be at is that way, and they village need to be at that way. So choose your path carefully. Anything else you got to say, Herb?
Growth and understanding. You know the rest. See you next
With
time.
that said, we out. On to the next one. Everybody be safe and go Geminis. All right. We out. You know I'm not big on all that science stuff, but I'm just talking crap. All right, we out.